Welcome to the ThreadTalk podcast. This is going to be episode 49. I'm your host, Denver, and I'm here with my beautiful fiance, Teresa.
What's with the energy? It's so low.
I feel like this is just a heavy episode.
It is.
Where I don't have the same excitement level that I usually do because I've been doing a lot. I've read a lot of these survival stories all today and for the last week or so. And then even when I found the original, like my other one. So it's just a heavy topic where I just don't have that same spunk, I guess.
No, that's so fair. I guess I haven't read any today. I found all my stories prior, but I will warn you guys, this is a really, really heavy episode that gets dark and just really sad at times. So if that triggers you, maybe skip to the next episode or...
Yeah, I just want to do like a blanket trigger warning for death, survivor guilt. Most of my stories are kind of mass events where a lot of people died and a few people walked away alive, and my stories are mainly their POV from the tragic event that they were involved in where people around them died.
Yeah. Me as well. I think you have like heavier long ones than I do.
This was kind of originally my episode like a while ago. Like I've been reading Reddit and, we have the normal things of Am I the Asshole? Today I fucked up, best of Reddit updates, but I've been kind of searching out there for different subreddits to pull stories from for you guys to kind of curate more. And I stumbled across a few of these and I kind of tucked them down in a category that I didn't really talk about. And then, I was talking to Teresa about it. And I'm like, I kind of have some of that. They're just survival, I guess, would be the theme of the episode. And we kind of mentioned it on a few episodes, and a lot of people said that they were interested in hearing these kinds of stories. So that's going to be what this episode is about. It's just survival.
Yep. So if you guys are here for the ride, thanks for joining. And if you think that it might be too much for you, that's totally fine as well.
So I'm going to get into the first story. My first story was it's from IAMA, which has a lot of these kinds of stories on that subreddit. Basically, I am this and ask me anything. So this one is, I am a survivor of the Route 91 Vegas mass shooting. Ask me anything. And then he goes on to tell his POV of that story. This was, I believe, 7 years ago, where there was the Mandalay Bay shooter in the gold building that shot down on the music festival. I remember hearing about it on in Vegas. I remember hearing about it on the news, and the gentleman held up in one of the hotel room. He brought in briefcases and suitcases of guns and weapons, and he was able to basically shoot fish in a barrel for an hour or half an hour or something. Well, it took a while before the sheriff's department actually got up to him. And this is written by somebody who was there, who helped people had to go through and experience all of that. So just like always, all of our links will be down in the description below if you want to look up where we are getting these from and dive in a little bit deeper into them in the comments and everything. And he does have a lot of images posted, before, nothing during the event, because as you'll come to explain, it wasn't a time for taking pictures.
Of course.
I do remember this story where my sister was at that hotel a week before this happened.
Yeah, she mentioned that.
It's crazy, and a lot of people lost their lives because of one person, which is just, I don't know, it hurts. But let's get into it, and I'm going to read his story. No rhyme or reason. We zigged while others zagged. We got out alive while those around us lost theirs. We were fish in a barrel. As far as the kill boxes go, a 32-story vantage point looking down at 22,000 people who were held in by fences, gates, structures, and bodies was a pretty good one. There was so much echo, reverb, and audio bouncing off the structures that us and others had an incredibly hard time echolocating where the shots were coming from. When things began, there was no knowledge, no info, No benefit of hindsight. I was convinced there were multiple shooters, and there was no damn way to know if they were inside or outside the venue. The first shots rang out, a short burst of what I would put at about 30 rounds. It was quick and unexpected, and the audio bounced off the small 3-story VIP structure behind us. We all looked around. I chalked it up to some drunk idiots bringing in firecrackers. The song played on. We continued sipping our drinks, dancing and singing to our friends while we bounced around. We were on the left side of the stage, about 20 feet back from the stage itself. To our left were food/drink vendor booths. Behind us, a prop-up bar called the Malibu Beach House, which was a small structure for selling liquor, which no doubt had the beach vibe. Next to that were rows of VIP booths that gave elevated vantage points for those who ponied up the money. Next volley of shots rang out. Different gun this time. Sustained fire from all I can guess was an extended drum magazine. I'd put the bullet count of this volley between 60 to 100. The right stage screen malfunctioned and began glitching out during this volley. I wasn't the only one who believed the audio system was popping and breaking at this time. We've been to festivals just like this one where the audio system had exactly this happen. Snap, crackle, pop. Consistent rate of fire. But to us, it was just consistent malfunctioning audio devices. At this point, the band zipped off stage and the house lights came on. This isn't right. This isn't part of the show. Butt begins to pucker. Girls hold on tight and ask what's going on. No one was running. No one was on the ground yet. The second volley of gunfire stops while the gunman reloads or picks up another gun. It was another gun. Different sound from this one. This point I can hear the snaps and crackles of the bullets hitting around us. We hit the deck. Get the fuck down! I yelled at the girls. Kelsey, Pally, and Jamie complied immediately. Our group of friends was 15 or so, but at this moment in time my eyes narrowed. Vision became laser focused and I lost sight of everyone else. I jumped on top of the 3 girls and laid completely across them while shoving their heads down to the ground as fast as possible. 1 body traded for 3. It's not heroic, but it's just basic math. If 3 can get out of the exchange of 1 finding a final resting place, then that's better than all 4 of us doing so. The third volley of bullets was sustained fire that lasted the longest out of the 3 volleys so far. We didn't move. But we sure understood that we were under fire. We lost track of everyone else. Pally and Nicole are sisters, and we became split immediately. Losing your sister in that kind of environment, those girls are strong as hell because they had no idea if the other was safe or not during the entire experience. It's now just Kelly, Jamie, Pally, and myself. We grab hands once the third round of bullets stopped and made the call to get out. This was the last time I saw the rest of our friends. The main entrance/exit to Route 91 funneled people to the north side of the venue and then looped back south as it hit the strip. This would have put everyone right kitty corner in front of the Mandalay Bay. Keep in mind, we still had no idea the shooter was firing from that hotel. We had no idea if it was a single shooter or multiple. No benefit of hindsight. No benefit of watching our experience through another person's cell phone and making judgment calls of what was the right or wrong thing to do. We're on our feet now, and we run while holding hands. We can't get separated. We can't lose one another. The fear in my girlfriend's eyes was more terrifying than the bullets crackling the air around us. We broke our way through the Malibu Beach House that was 50 feet behind us during the concert. We broke everything in order to make a new hole and get out. We broke fences. We broke walls. We broke decorations and more. If we go down, this is where people would get trampled. Debris is all over the ground, and while I never look back, I imagine there was a crowd following us. One misstep and you might have the boots on your back while others are trying to save their lives too. None of us fell. We made it through the beach house. More gunfire. More rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. More screams. More confusion. More death. I make video games for a living. I make violent video games. The kind that has me at my desk after world events like these watching all of the video footage of strangers fighting for their lives to get out. It's a terrible thing, but it's reference. How do people look? How do they act? Do their instincts kick in? Do they fall apart? Find cover and wait it out or run for it? There's no guidebook. You know when it's time to hide. You don't know when to run. We had multiple moments where we looked for shelter. We tried to get into a parked semi-truck shortly after the beach house experience to no avail. My fear was that we were cattle being pushed in a direction that would empty us into another perfect kill box, with another 1 or 2 shooters mowing a new fresh packed crowd that were attempting to exit. Quote, I have you girls. We're going to get out of this. We're going to have to jump fences, but we're going to do it together. I love all 3 of you. Jamie was amazing. She never hesitated. She never faltered. Her and I were in sync, the same way we get sometimes while playing video games together from the comforts of our Woodland Hills apartment. No need for extensive conversation. We know what the other was thinking. Things were getting crowded now as we began to zigzag down pathways still inside the venue. We started down a long corridor heading north, full out sprinting while holding hands. 4. We have 4. There are 4 of us. This was the actual first time I acknowledged who was with us and to make sure we always had 4. Instead of following the crowd down this long northern corridor, I put my back up against the chain link fence to the right, east, and placed my palms up on my legs to hoist the girls up. While I was getting in position, Jamie was already up and over the fence. She did her first pull-up about a month ago. Pretty happy she's fit. Kelsey and Polly launched off my leg, up and over. 2 more strangers joined us, using my hands and leg as springboards to get up and over. More people began to follow up and over at this point. I couldn't get separated, so I stopped lifting and jumped the fence myself. We were getting in less dense crowds now, which was the goal. Our zigzagging path continued, still within the confines of the venue itself. Our sprint continued. It had to continue. Not everyone was springing like us, though. Many were just doing a brisk walk. Maybe they didn't fully understand the gravity of the situation. Maybe their flight response just wasn't the same. No idea if they made it out or not, or were part of the growing body count that we kept watching go up on the news. More fences, more jumping, more scrapes, bumps, and cuts. The gunfire continued. The screams got louder, and more shock was hitting everyone. Choke point. Fuck. On the left, there was a tall brick wall that was too high for the girls to jump. And on the right, there was a barbed wire chain link fence. They met at a 90-degree angle to form a hard right angle. The chain link fence was pushed just slightly that allowed 2 people at a time to snake through. We tried pushing it open more. Mine melded with strangers, no worries, but we knew we had to get the gap to be larger or this choke point was going to end up with someone falling and being trampled. We failed. We couldn't move it. We were becoming part of a larger crowd. Quote, girls, hold on tight. We're going through. There was a nightclub fire back in the 90s with video footage where the crowd was trying to get out of a single exit. I remember one man was kind of polite and allowing others to go in front, but by holding back he was stopping the flow out. That man died, along with hundreds others in that nightclub. This was a scene that was in my thoughts as we slowly moved in the mounting crowd through this small exit. Quote, don't push. We'll all get out. Anyone falls, get them up. We're all in this together. We made our way through the choke point. No one at this point fell. Another long corridor. More fences. More screams. More gunfire bouncing off the hotels. Depending on the caliber bullet used and where the gunman was shooting, it was hard to track where the bullets were coming from. Was it 1? Was it 2? Was it 3? Were we emptying out into a new kill box? Another fence. 2 guys led the charge up and over. We couldn't see what was on the other side, though. Quote, how far is it down? Shit, 15 or 20 feet. Good luck. Hard pass. Don't need any of us snapping a leg or twisting an ankle in our attempt to get out. We continued north. At this point, still in the venue, but we were back in the areas that were fenced off to festival goers and reserved for the staff. More gunfire. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. Parking lot. Perfect. Hard, thick steel for cover. Keep your head down and zigzag. We jumped our last fence to empty into this parking lot to the east of the venue. We were technically out of the venue as we kept our heads down. Say what you will about rednecks, but big lifted pickup trucks made for great cover as we zigged and zagged northeast, holding hands. 4. We still have 4. Some stayed ducked behind trucks, others laid down in the truck bed. We kept moving. It worked out for us, but at the time we had no idea if this was the best decision. Do you run? Do you hide? You have no way to check in and clarify the best decision. You just make them and press on. We got through the parking lot and were now in a small single-story business lot, commercial strip mall feel. While others walked, we continued to run. We kept at a pace that the four of us could hold on to for about 100-foot bursts. We made it to a street finally, the first street we had seen since the murdering began. This was the first time I saw any police. He had the road blocked off with his car and his gun out while he was holding cover behind the vehicle. I keep a calm head most of the time. When we fly on airplanes, I don't get anxious or nervous when the turbulence hits. Until I see a stewardess start to freak out, only then will I understand the gravity of the situation and freak out too. Look for those who've been there before because their calibration of the situation is better than mine. Quote, go, 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 get the fuck out, keep running, get to cover, go, go, go. The urgency, panic in this man's voice cemented it. We weren't out of the shit yet. He stayed though. I don't believe he had a better grasp on the situation than we did, but him and hundreds of other first responders did their job and walked into the belly of the beast. They were trained. I imagine this was the quintessential experience that SWAT and the Vegas police train for. Huge, soft target, shooter or shooters unloading into crowds and causing panic. I'm thankful for their efforts. We have to get off these streets. Where is the gunfire coming from? It sounds further away. I think we're going in the right direction. Are the gunmen mobile though? Are they driving and unloading? Are they static? We had gotten out of the big barrel and now we're finding ourselves in small barrels, just fish trying to survive. We saw an open lobby entrance on our left up the street. 4 of us still. Still have 4 of us. Time to seek shelter. The lobby was mass panic. 100 other country music fans trying to make that decision whether or not this was good enough cover. People running around, screaming, bloody. The lobby wasn't very large. There wasn't a single staff member or anyone who was even staying in this small resort. To the right of the lobby was a small check-in desk. People were hiding behind the desk. To the left of the check-in desk was a very small convenience shop. The kind that under normal circumstances would be awkward if more than 2 people were inside at a time. One 8-foot wall held snacks, toiletries, and the like. The next wall was a Pepsi fridge with chilled drinks. On the right wall was a few small ice cream bar freezers. Quote, get down. Stay here. Backs to the wall. Here. Keep this here. I moved a small freezer next to Pally. Next to Pally was Kelsey, and next to her was Jamie. All 3 with backs to the wall and a small freezer between them and the lobby entrance. We had kept relatively cool heads so far. The girls had tears in their eyes. The pain, fear, and raw, unfiltered terror washed their faces as they were processing just what we were into. I grabbed Polly's face and made her look into my eyes as she hyperventilated. She's sitting down, rocking back and forth. I'm on my knees in front of her and holding her head in my hands. Quote, we're going to be safe. I have you. We're going to get to better cover. I have you. Look at me. Look at me. Chaos and panic comes in ebbs and flows. Moments of calm while the gunmen reloaded brought us down the smallest amount, and then the gunfire hits and another wave of fear washes over. We were in Vegas. We were there for a good time and there to party. Our hotel room was better stocked than some of the small bars on the strip. We had been drinking tough all day long. My boots were completely filled with whiskey inside the venue, like small 3-ounce liquid weights that oddly get a little lighter as the day progresses. None of us walked in the venue that day in any type of sobriety. It was the last night too. Time to give her hard and we'll deal with the hangover the next day. Adrenaline, however, is a hell of a drug. Went from feeling 10 feet tall and bulletproof to stone cold sober and 190 pounds of meat. Water. Time for everyone to get water. We ransacked the convenience shop. Again, strangers without saying a word were on the same page. We opened up that fridge and started a fire line of waters and sports drinks out to the lobby where strangers grabbed them and passed them around as they ran for cover. Back to the ebbs and flows of panic though. Biggest wave was about to hit us hard and we had no idea. Gun! Gun! Get down! The hotel lobby erupted in action. More people were flowing into the lobby again. More every second. Fuck, we're in a kill box. This isn't good enough cover and we're sitting ducks. Screams and a huge wave of panic kicks in. Everyone thought a gunman was out front. We all pushed away from the lobby as we could. We ended up in an adjacent small media room. Before I could even assess the room, Jamie had flipped a table on its side and was ducked underneath as Kelly and Pally joined her. We were trapped though. All the doors were locked, and we had just made a shit decision and got trapped in another small room that was maybe 20 feet by 20 feet, and we had 50 people in there all huddled. Some guys tried kicking the glass out of the locked door, even grabbing a light stand to smash through. It didn't work. Wasn't for lack of trying though. Fuck. Quote, girls, we're getting out of here. Time to find a stairwell and get off the ground floor. We got up from behind the flip table and left through the same door we had entered that room. We took a hard right and went through another open door that opened up into a central resort pool area that was enclosed by the resort rooms. 4 stories on either side, and we still had 4 of us together. The pool area, however, was locked off behind metal gates that required key cards. Up and over, girls. Our fence jumping wasn't behind us just yet. We crossed the pool and found a stairwell and climbed it. Each door, though, was locked. We banged on doors, but no one ever came. We got up to the top of the stairwell. Again, not an amazing place for cover as the stairwell was open to the pool area below. But we could hide. We were away from the crowds, and we were quiet. Still 4 of us. Only 4 of us. Good. We had removed ourselves from the barrel. We sat down. We cried. We assessed our situation. We got on our phones and started reaching out to our friends. Were they alive? Did they make it out? Are they okay? Did you see where Nicole went? What about Cam and Jack? Did Eric, Brittany, Alyssa make it out? I didn't see them, did you? After catching our breath, we came up with plans. If by some crazy chance there are multiple gunmen and he comes here, we don't move. We don't make a sound. Girls lie on the concrete as far away from the railing as you can. Fuck. We're illuminated by bright overhead fluorescent lights. The girls went to the lower platform while I fixed the situation. Shirt off, wrapped around my hand, it was time to go dark. Desert Rose Resorts, you can send me the bill. I broke the lights on the 4th floor platform of the western stairwell overlooking the pool. We stayed put. We called and texted and posted online. We didn't move for a couple hours. Cell reception was understandably pretty minimal since 22,000 people were tracking each other down. Text your families. They can't hear the news and not know that you made it out. No parents should experience that uncertainty. We tried to flag down some people that were in their hotel rooms that were looking out into the pool. We needed someone with a key to get us into the proper hotel. A few people were peeking out of their blinds across the pool at us. We motioned for them to come help us, but they went back into their rooms. Maybe they thought we were trying to warn them to stay inside and get away from the window. I don't know. Could have used an olive branch at that time, though. Nicole got in contact with us during this time. Quotes, Dan, tell me you have her. Tell me you have Pally. She mustered those words out between hyperventilating breaths and audible tears. We have her. We're safe. We're going to make it out. Oddly enough, her and Brittany have made it next door to the Hooters Hotel. Only now were we able to evaluate where we were in relation to the strip. Kelsey remained cool and calm the entire time. She came up with the game plan. Her friend, who is in the service and was volunteering at the show, was nearby and he had a vehicle. We didn't want to be out on the streets again, but if we must risk it for a short amount of time to get far away, then let's do it. We had stayed on that stairwell for quite an amount of time. It was now time to move again. We coordinated with Kelsey's friend. Brandon, was it? We descended the stairwell, back over the fence, into the pool area, and through another gate back to the lobby. The lobby was packed still. No one had any information, and no one could say for certain what was happening. We were new faces in this lobby, though, and were approached by 6 people asking us if we worked here or were staying here or what to do. We had no answers but to stay safe and get to cover. We were still moving fast with our heads down. There was just no way to know what was out there. Kelsey's friend pulled up in his 4-door car. We got the girls in the car. He handed me his pistol. You know how to use this? Yes, sir. You drive and I'll manage this. It was a very small concealed carry 9mm. Hammer cocked when he handed it to me. Shit. I kept Pally and Jamie on the far left of me while I kept the pistol on my right side pointed down at the ground and keeping my head on a swivel. I don't own a gun of my own. I don't think that the only thing that can stop a bad guy is a good guy with a gun. Sure, it can happen, but the way I figure it, we're more likely to hurt the ones we love than stop a bad guy. It still didn't stop me from holding on to that gun and playing scenarios out in my head of what to do if A, B, or C happens again. It's a 9mm. I'll need to open the door and stand behind it for cover and shoot with 2 hands. Very limited number of bullets. I think there were only 2, so the shots would have to count. Getting around the streets was tough. People were still out and running from one hiding spot to the next. Police were still attempting to manage the chaos, and many streets were blocked off entirely. We inched our way away from the venue and headed to the driver's apartment far away. We still had no concrete information at this time. We had checked news, social media, and all types of different reports. Reports of bombs at nearby hotels, reports of bombs at the airport, reports of multiple shooters. Even though we told our families we were safe, that was a damned lie, and I'm sorry. We laid low at the apartment for another couple of hours. Kelsey was in contact with her dad and was already halfway from LA to Vegas in his Suburban. He loves his daughter so much and wanted to help make her safe. I believe her dad, Hank, and her brother Daniel arrived around 3 or 4. They came with a change of clothes and eagerness to help us and our friends out. Now it was time to organize with our friends and get back together. Except roads were blocked off. Hotels were in total lockdown. We managed to get a mile or 2 from the strip and parked at a gas station. Do they come to us or do we go to them? The shooting has stopped and the reports were that the gunman was dead. We talked to our friends and after lots of deliberation decided to meet back at the Excalibur. Coffee for the walk, we made our ways back to the strip. Closed roads, zombies walking in different directions covered with hotel blankets and sheets. Each of our friends experienced very different situations and survived by doing different things. There's really no rhyme or reason we're alive when being shot at like that. We zigged, others zagged. We lived while others didn't. It's going to take a long time to come to grips with what happened. In the meantime, we're back home now. I love you all. That's it. This picture of the 4 of them. So he does include pictures of what his hotel situation looked like and what it was like before the shooting started.
That one was really tough.
That is some of the scariest situations ever, because like you said, you don't, like we hear it on the news and we hear as one guy in a hotel room and he's dead and everything, but in that moment they have no idea. Is it 1? Is it 2? Did people plan this together? Are they chasing people down of the streets? Are you just unlucky enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time even after you got away?
No one ever thinks it can happen to them. I don't know, I would never even imagine anything like that happening to me, people just, you would never assume that, right?
Exactly. It reminds me of even in Toronto a couple years ago, there was the guy with the van who drove down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
That's somewhere where you used to, no, you weren't that close.
It was near Union.
But yeah, it was near Union.
Yeah, I used to.
You could have been walking on the street that day.
Yeah.
You could have been one of the person underneath it, or you could have been one of the person walking by. You could be the person in the hotel room next to the shooter.
Yeah. I will say, though, OP has really great survival instincts.
It's tough, though, because I agree with that, but it's tough. It's like you don't know. Is the right thing to do is to sit and hide, and you don't even know what you're hiding from.
Yeah, I know.
To stay underneath the vehicles in the parking lot.
Well, he was saying, he was running while others were walking. He was
right.
like, why were others walking.
They might not have understood what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depending on where people were, like it's such a mass thing. He would only have been shooting at like a certain area. And I imagine when he reload, he would kind of aim for the same spot. So I imagine there's people on the outskirts of the festival who could see people are panicking, they're running, and they're not quite sure why. Like, oh, we're kind of running because people are running beside us. We hear these bangs, but maybe they think they're fireworks. They haven't seen anybody bloody yet. They haven't seen somebody right next to them get hit.
Yeah.
So they're like, I think I should be leaving, but I don't really understand why. There's no sense of urgency because they didn't experience it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always wonder, like, would my instincts kick in? Like, what... If I were ever in a situation like that, like, how would my body react? I hope it would do me good.
It's tough because, you know, there's no right or wrong. Like, sometimes when you run...
Definitely.
Imagine there was more than 3 of them, and when you decided to run, you ran right into the next person.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no...
You can't know. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, exactly.
That is terrifying. Terrifying. Like, I wouldn't be able to come out of hiding. How long do you wait until you feel safe again?
Right? They're hiding in the stairwell, but how long is long enough?
Yeah. I hope they all get the help that they need after that, because I can't even imagine the amount of trauma that comes with living through that.
Yep.
I wouldn't be able to go to a crowd again, let alone a concert. Probably like can't even go to malls, shopping malls, out in the streets. Like, how do you overcome that?
I don't know. And his experience is jolting, but there was probably a lot of other people that were even closer to it.
Yeah.
That watched the person in front of them take a bullet.
Exactly.
And got splattered.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely not the same thing, but I just saw on TikTok a couple days ago, at a Jonas Brothers concert, there was a laser pointed at Nick Jonas's head as he was performing, and he had to run off the stage and stuff, and they like stopped the concert like temporarily. Like,
there's reasons for it, right? Like, could have been it. It's the scare of events like this that make that things like that in the future. No,
exactly. But like, they proceeded to go with the concert after. I don't know how long they were paused for, but nothing ended up happening, thankfully. But like, if that was a joke, like a laser being pointed at, that is just...
It's not funny.
Not even a little bit. Not even in the slightest. Like, there is... What good comes of that? What does that bring you? Like, does that bring you joy to, like, stop a concert like that and bring panic to people? Like,
Some people might not think of it that way. Like, with a laser, they might just think of it like, you know, it's a light show, you know? Oh, look, I do this over here and I can see it over there. Like, not everyone thinks that lasers equal bullets. So, I don't know. But
no, I feel like it's 2024. Like, we all have a lot of knowledge of what goes on in the world. There's social media. Like, we are very aware of what happens.
Was the concert in the States?
I don't know, actually.
Because if it's not in the States, like, these kind of mass shootings are kind of isolated.
We're not in the States.
No, we're Canada, and we're just above the States. We're kind of connected. Like, but like if you go to other places where guns are banned, like actually banned and not there, like they don't have really the mass shootings. So if it was somewhere in Europe, I could see it not being like, why would you think this way? Because their country may have never experienced something like that.
I don't know. That one was really, really tough to sit through.
Yeah.
But OP was also a great, like, storyteller, I will say.
Yeah.
He really shared a lot of details and really painted the full picture. All right. On to me?
Yes.
All right. This one comes from Ask Reddit. It's titled, People Who Have Survived Events in Which Others Were Killed. How has your life changed since? Do you have survivor's remorse? One of the comments says, I got caught in a pileup stampede once. It happened after an outdoor event at night. It was freezing cold and many people tried to leave as soon as the event was over. There was a bottleneck at one exit and people got crushed. 5 dead, many injured. I recall being a sea of people, unable to move. I got lifted off my feet and got pushed around with the crowd, completely unable to do anything about it. It was kind of fun at first, but soon everyone realized that it was super fucking serious. Then the collapse began. It was like a fracture line with a subduction zone, simply put. Like many, many others, I got pinned under, on top of some girls and a bunch of people on my back. The girl started to panic and began hyperventilating. I myself was pretty damn stoned, which, in retrospect, absolutely helped me stay calm. I instructed her to breathe slowly, in, out, and reassured her that everything would be alright. Total lizard brain survival mode. Quench the panic, stay calm. I didn't believe it myself, though. She eventually calmed down, and after what seemed like ages, an hour, 15 minutes, I don't know, the pressure from the crowd declined. She got out unharmed. I got up, but many people didn't. As I was getting on my feet, I noticed the carnage. Bent, crumpled, bloody. Emergency response personnel was already there, and I just walked up to the nearest EMT who was reanimating a girl, just a few meters away from where I was pinned. We performed CPR on her. She was foaming blood from her mouth from her internal injuries. As I was talking to the EMT, her blood ran from his mouth. After a while, someone took over performing chest compressions. I got up and grabbed a loaned shoe that I somehow thought a friend had lost. He in fact did, and it was his shoe, and got the hell away from there. This was before mobile phones, but miraculously, the people I was with all managed to meet up outside the venue. No one from our group got injured. Apparently an EMT thanked an unknown helper on TV a few days ago. As for how it changed me, I avoided crowds for some time, but that's mostly about it. I debated if I was part of what caused the stampede. Yes, probably. You're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic. But so were hundreds, if not thousands of others. It was freezing and the event was over. We were using the designated exit for our sector, and after several years of legal proceedings, the organizers were found guilty of negligence. I don't think I've had any sort of survivor's guilt. In fact, I only learned that that was a thing several years after. The only thing that's sometimes on my mind is the question if I could have done more to help the people that were injured. Man, this was a weird memory to have brought up on a Monday morning.
I always think about that when we go to large events and I see so many people out on the street. Like, it's a legit fear of, like, you, if people are rushing to leave and you trip and fall, or somebody pushes on you and they trip and fall, you can't see the people that are below you, and you end up walking on them without even realizing you walked on someone.
I've actually never had this fear before, but now fear unlocked. Going to Taylor Swift, I'm nervous.
When we went to Taylor Swift in Italy and we were leaving,
there was 80,000 people.
Imagine if they were trying to run.
Yeah.
Something happened while they were at the event, a fire caught or something, and they were trying to run down those exit ways. It would be so jammed, and it's so easy for someone to trip, or somebody to step on the person in front of them, their ankle, and then they go down, and it's just people effect. Keep walking, and then when you're the 10th person behind, the time you get up there, you didn't even know somebody's on the ground. You've already made your step on their back before you even realize it. It's very scary. Yeah.
Well, this is exactly what happened at Astroworld with what's his name? Travis Scott? Is that his name?
I think so.
And, he didn't do anything about it. He literally saw in the crowds and kept performing. That story makes me sick. I remember when that happened. It was a few years ago. We were on vacation. I remember, learning about it, and that still makes me so sick to this day. And for me, I don't know how people can still support him or listen to his music. I just see him in a totally different light now, because hundreds, I don't know how many people, but a lot of people died.
Yeah.
And that is just really sickening. At Taylor Swift, if she sees anybody, she stops her songs. I remember in Italy, she stopped multiple times to
If
say,
people passed out.
help these people over here, help over there, they need help. Like, and that's the way artists should be. Like, you can stop your song. Like, a person's life is a lot more important than... And it doesn't take much to just literally pause your song and ask for help. Like,
Yep.
it's the bare minimum.
I feel like artists in a crowd have an obligation.
100%. 100%. All right.
Okay, back to me. This one is coming from Ask Reddit as well. The title for this one was Serious. What is your scariest I survived story? One of the comments on this thread says, 5 years ago, I had just moved in an apartment with my 18-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son. I was separated and had the full custody. I caught a cold with a nagging cough and started having a fever on top of it. I went to see my family doctor who did an influenza test and gave me antibiotics and codeine cough syrup to help. Next day, the influenza results came back negative, so I start the antibiotics. 2 days later, I called my big sister during the evening to wish her a happy birthday. We talked for a while, then I went to bed. I woke up 10 days later, hooked up to a breathing machine, my hands tied to the bed, not knowing where I was nor what happened. When I woke up, in my mind, I was in Rio de Janeiro in a facility where they were keeping me alive just to be able to sell my organs. I was in shock and tried to free myself, but I couldn't. I was thinking about my kids that would be left without a mother. I was constantly in and out of consciousness, but couldn't make the difference between my dream and the reality. The nurses never thought of telling me their names or telling me where I was and what had happened to me. It was really terrifying because the people in my dreams were the same people that were taking care of me. After a while, I got better and was told that after I went to sleep 10 days prior, I didn't wake up in the morning, and it's my 18-year-old daughter who found me, barely breathing in the afternoon. She called the ambulance and they had to push oxygen into my lungs to make me breathe. I had a virulent double pneumonia. At the hospital, they had to put me into a coma, hook me into a breathing machine, and transfer me to an intensive care unit. They didn't know if I was going to make it or not. They even asked my ex-husband to call the family as they had a hard time to control my fever. I eventually figured out where I was, but not before yanking out the tube I had been hooked up to for the breathing machine. Then I was able to talk and ask questions, but I remained paranoid for a couple of days. I finally got out of the hospital 3 days after I woke up from my coma and made a full recovery.
Nobody thinks the flu is a big deal. Nobody thinks COVID is a big deal until it is.
It's so terrifying for anybody who's been in a coma and then wakes up a period of time later. Like, for you,
shocking.
When you wake up, it's the next day.
Yeah.
Or you're not sure when you fell asleep. And it could be days or months later.
That is terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying.
And to be, like, sick on top of it. Like, you don't know whether to be grateful or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, you woke up, but you didn't know you were sick.
Exactly.
That's terrifying. Okay, this one also comes from Ask Reddit. People who escaped death by complete luck. What happened? A wave turned me over while I was about to drown after breaking my neck at the beach. 0 out of 10 experience. Someone else responded, damn, how are you doing nowadays? How long ago did this happen and how exactly did it happen? They reply, it happened almost 20 years ago. It was a pretty stupid way to get injured. I went on a school beach at the beginning of the year, went in the ocean, which was very calm, and took that little jump to get over the cold and finally dive into it. We get a phenomenon called aguaje, which means dead plankton turns the sea yellowish and keeps you from seeing what's below the surface. I was unlucky enough to hit a sandbank and immediately broke 2 vertebrae. The upper fracture would have been enough to kill me on the spot had the bone fragments gone into my spine, but it was a clear fracture. The lower one, though, did get into my spine. Then and there, I suddenly became nothing more than a head attached to a seemingly dead body and no way to turn around and ask for help. While holding my breath, I saw a hand next to my cheek and thought I was going to make it. It was horrifying to realize it was my own hand. And then, the deus ex machina. A wave turned over me and I was finally able to breathe and scream for help, or so I thought. As it turns out, you can't scream if you can't fill your lungs properly. All I could do was produce an indoor voice call for help. Since this was during a school trip, I was actually surrounded by other students. One of them saw me and assumed I was just enjoying myself, until he saw blood on my lip. Had I not inadvertently been in my own lower lip as I jumped, I would probably not be writing this. A year in physical rehab got me to recover a good deal of sensation and mobility. I'm no longer just a head, but I did get a severe life-lasting disability. I wish I could say I'm used to it and doing well, but that's just not true. I get chronic pain, and today is a particularly difficult day. It's not all bad, though. Most days are worth living, and I still have dreams and ambitions. I might not be the smartest or strongest, but I'm definitely the most perseverant person I know, and I'll become an urbanist and emigrate to Spain, even if I have to crawl all the way there.
Damn. That,
just freak accidents.
So many freak accidents where you can be paralyzed. And, I grew up racing motocross. So when I've seen some kids and some people and adults who have become paralyzed. I've seen it, I'm sure professional athletes have seen it. I've seen it in professional racing. Like, that is a scary thing. And, there's a lot of times where everybody focuses on, how their life can be better and what they need. And I feel like that's kind of like the human tendency, is to always focus on what you don't have to make your life better. But sometimes I just take a step back and I just realize how privileged I am to be in the position that I am. And I'm just grateful for the privilege that I have of, not being paralyzed, not having a chronic illness. Sometimes I get sick for like a week or two. And then I'm like, wait, imagine if if you had this all the time. People, when they get older, they get Parkinson's, or, anybody with cancer, or you get arthritis, like any of these chronic illnesses or serious illnesses. And it's just like, you gotta be, I feel like the older you get, the more grateful that you get for having your health.
For sure.
And even just living in Canada, yeah, like our politics suck and taxes suck and whatever, but like there's a lot of other people still in the world today that, they don't have the privilege that we have in, first world countries, where sometimes I just sit back and I just try to be grateful for everything I have, love and appreciate everybody in my life. Trying not to focus on what I don't have.
Yeah.
I always got to keep that in check.
Yeah. If this episode does anything, I hope it does just bring everyone listening a sense of gratitude for the life that you're living today. And hopefully, these stories are usually like a 1 out of a million chance of happening.
The stories that we have are a fraction of what's out there. I tried to do some research, but Reddit is, I really wanted to have POVs of people's personal experiences, because that's what Reddit is. It's personal experiences. And I didn't just want news articles or something happening, because, we could make a whole nother podcast of just focusing on that stuff between World War II, the Cold War, all of the wars that the war won, the current wars that are going on between Ukraine, Russia, Israel, and Palestine, and Iran, and even the lesser, there's probably wars between smaller countries that nobody even knows about in the West, like that people are still dying every day from senseless stuff. Even, doesn't matter what side you're on at the end of the day, like people are dying in certain situations around the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, back to me.
Yep.
This one's coming from Ask Reddit, and the title was Survivors of Attempted Murder, What's Your Story? And this was one of the comments on the thread. I delivered a pizza to a house just outside of the city. On the way back, I stopped to help a car that pulled over in front of me with their hazard lights on. I pulled up beside them and thought it was really weird that nobody rolled down a window or made any kind of contact with me for about 15 seconds. The passenger then jumped out of his side of the car, yelling that they needed help as he made his way towards my car. I thought something was weird about this. As I started to pull away before he could get to my passenger door, he began shooting at me. I ducked my head after the first shot entered through the back window and embedded in my passenger seat headrest. Another shot entered through the rear window, while the other 3 hit the outside metal parts of my car. He missed altogether with another shot. Turns out it was a plot to rob me. The pizza was ordered and the guys were stationed down the road to intercept me. They knew who I was, and they knew I would be able to recognize them, as I had delivered a few orders to them before. The guy wasn't wearing anything to cover his identity, which led me to believe that he would have shot and killed me if he would have made it inside my car. By the next morning, they all had arrests on them. The shooter was found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison. He later appealed the sentencing because there was a word wrong in the jury instructions. He won the appeal and ended up being sentenced to 10 years, and was released November of 2010 after 5 years. The remaining 5 years were to be served as parole/probation. He was arrested twice for parole/probation violation when he was only a couple months away from total freedom. I had the last laugh.
Thank God. Oh, like stuff like this. Like my family grew up listening to the news and stuff all the time, and I hated it. Like there was just always so much negativity. Like, oh, what if this happens to you? What if this... And like nowadays, even on TikTok, I'm like just fed so much like, oh, you can't use aluminum because it'll give you cancer, and all of this food has carcinogens and all of this stuff. And it's like, so much stuff can happen to you. And literally, as I'm listening to your story, I'm like, you can't even just have a job and deliver a pizza without fearing for your life.
Yeah.
Like, it's like so much, there's just so many things that can happen to you. And, I was in a place where I was like afraid of literally everything, like a few years ago. And unfortunately, like, we just kind of like have to accept that like stuff can happen, but I believe like everything happens for a reason, and we can't like let it stop us from living our life.
I don't know. Sometimes I like to think that everything happens for a reason, but when I think about that saying,
I know,
and then I put that saying on someone else's life,
no, I know,
it makes me hard to believe that. For when it's my life, I'm like, yeah, everything's great, everything's meant to happen, it's great. And then when I watch something like the reports from Gaza and stuff, and I'm just like, if I put that onto those people, I can't. I have a hard time believing. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that happened for a reason.
No, you're so right.
Yeah, but I do know what you mean. Like I do think like that, but it's only in like scales like this, where like, wait a second, if I put that same thought process on someone else, like, do I still feel that same way?
I know. It's tough. It's like, what kind of mentality are we supposed to have? Are we supposed to have like, fuck it, everything happens for a reason. If I'm meant to die today, I'm meant to die today. Or like, are we supposed to be scared shitless of like everything? You know what I mean? Like
I would have to lean more towards whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. Maybe not whatever is meant to happen is meant to happen, but more of whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen, because whether it's this accident from a car crash, getting hit by a random car, I don't know. I feel like you can't live your life in fear. Whenever I think about that too, and like, I don't know, lately, I guess maybe reading these stories, you see all of the politician stuff with like the president and the Canadian prime minister, and who's going to win and who's going to be voted in and what policies are going to be passed and stuff, and we're like squabbling over these things which our forefathers fought life and death over for us to be able to experience what we're experiencing, have the freedom to experience this political landscape where they never had that. They had go to war, kill or be killed, and that was their life. And they put themselves, like my grandfather, like he served in World War II. And, you know, sometimes I think about the World War II was now so long ago that most of the people who were in World War II, they're all starting to pass away. I know my grandfather hasn't. You know, they put their lives on the line, all of those men and women who served and had to fight in World War I, World War II, and everything before that, so that the next generations could have the freedom to live like we do. And I'm just very grateful for all the people that came before us.
Yep, it's all about perspective.
Perspective is a huge one. And like this perspective of like, I've always thought this, like what this guy said in this story, like, you know, like obviously we watch movies and movies is our entertainment and we like, oh, what would we do in that situation, you know? And there's always a situation of like the bank robber or something like that. And it's like, listen, if someone is robbing you at gunpoint and they want you to do something and they're wearing a mask, I would like to believe just do it and whatever. If they show you your face, I feel like they plan to kill you when it's done, when they can. That's how I've always thought about that in the movies. Like, listen, if the bad guy lifts his mask and he's willing to show you his face and he's not worried about that anymore, it's because he's not worried about you telling anybody. So I feel like in that situation, that hypothetical, I'm like, okay, this is time to fight for your life. If somebody's doing something like this to you and they are showing you their face, they're not worried about being identified later.
That's true. Jeez, never thought of that.
Yeah. I found a couple other stories that I've found and some people and some instances I'll talk on a little bit at the end of the episode, because we're not going to read those stories because we don't exactly have permission, and those are different formats from what we have currently found. But there's a couple of them I just want to touch on at the end of the episode.
Sounds good. Well, on the note of your you speaking on your grandfather being in the war, I have one titled, "What is your grandpa's war story?" My grandpa, the one I knew anyway, was born in 1939 in a small town on the coast of Norway, the fifth of 10 kids. Norway was occupied by the Nazis in 1940, but not so much of that was noticed way out on the coast. But sometime in 1943, the Nazis came to town looking for resistance fighters. They went house to house and eventually came to my grandpa's. He clearly remembered a small squad of 6 to 10 guys coming in and going through the whole house while his family huddled in the living room, scared shitless. During the course of the search, my grandpa's infant brother began screaming. My great-grandmother tried in vain to calm the child. She was convinced that the Nazis would just kill them for the inconvenience of a screaming child. A Nazi soldier came into the living room and walked straight to the crib. He looked down at my great-uncle and began to cry. Everyone was shocked. He reached into his pack and pulled out a wrinkled photo of another infant who looked very similar to my great-uncle. The commanding officer explained that this soldier had a son at home who he had never seen, but his wife had sent him this photo. The soldier then sat down with all the kids and shared his chocolate ration with them. It was the first time my grandpa ever tasted chocolate, and probably the last for a long time. He never forgot that, even through Alzheimer's dementia. He always told me that story to illustrate that soldiers on any side are just people dealing with their own trauma and difficulty. I hope I never forget it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a happy one, maybe-ish.
Kind of. I mean, my mom was a really big war person. She was always very fascinated by the world wars. And when we did a month-long Euro trip in grade 7, I remember we went to the concentration camps to pay our respect and just kind of take it all in. There's the Anne Frank story about her diary documenting her life hiding amongst Nazi prosecution in the occupied Netherlands. It was a huge story, and just, you know, everything for that. And it just makes you think, like, the Germans, like the Nazis, like not all of the Germans were quote unquote Nazis. Like a lot of them had to fight for their country. A lot of them were conscripted to fight for the German side. Like that just happened to be the place where you were born. And now you have to go to war for your country, just like the Americans, the Canadians, every country you had to go to war. Did you know that it was the Nazi party? They were a political party. So that would be the same thing as like the liberals or the conservatives, or in the States, the Republicans. Like one party got in and grasped onto so much power, and that's how the Nazi regime started. I remember went down the rabbit hole a little while ago. It was very interesting. I never really understood what the Nazis were, and then I went down the rabbit hole, and it's like they were actually a political party.
Yeah, I think I remember learning that.
Take over enough power, and the fact that they were able to do what they did, and there was a lot of like dark stuff. Like I remember there was something uncovered like by one of the pharmaceutical companies that is now one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies of the world. The fact that the Nazi party would send them like healthy females, and they're like, thank you for test dummies, please send us more, because all of them are deceased now. They instead of testing on rats, they were testing on humans. And like the slave labor for like the automotive manufacturers and stuff. Like there's so much dark history that they did at the time.
Jeez.
I just watched a TikTok the other day that was saying when American troops came to liberate one of the concentration camps, the fact that the bodies were just laid up, piling, rotting away, no care to them, and the Nazis of the concentration camp thought that they would just be taken in because they're surrendering, they'd just be taken in as prisoners of war. And the one of the sergeants or something just couldn't handle it, and he executed 560 Nazis in the concentration camp.
Wow.
And then you think about that, you think about the nuclear bombs that got dropped on Japan. Japan got hit with 2 nuclear bombs and they didn't even commit exactly what the Nazis did, although I heard they did some horrific things to prisoners of wars too. War is dark.
Yeah, it is. It's very dark.
Human history is dark.
Yep. There's an edit to the prior comment. I wanted to add another story for the time that didn't involve my family so much, just to show the flip side of the coin. The town my family comes from is very small. It has been a farming and fishing community for pretty much as long as anyone can remember. Everyone says hi to everyone and is usually very pleasant. So it came as a surprise to me one summer when I saw an old man I'd never met before walking down the road. I asked my grandma who he was, and she told me his name and that no one really spoke to him. I was curious why. Turns out he was a teenager during World War II. When the Nazis were coming through looking for people, around the time the above event with my grandpa happened, they came to his family's house. They collected all of his family in one room and demanded to know where the resistance members were in the community. The whole family swore up and down they didn't know any. So the soldiers pulled their oldest son aside and demanded he tell them, or they would shoot his family. He told them to go next door. So they did, and killed several members of the neighbor's family. One of the few survivors was the oldest son in that household, and he never forgave his neighbor for pointing the Nazis in their direction. I'm pretty sure the whole family moved after that, but they kept ownership of the property, so this old guy would show up every summer and stay for a few weeks with almost no one in town talking to him.
Man.
That's so sad.
It's very sad. And it's what would you do in that situation?
I know. It's kill or be killed.
Kill or be killed. Protect your family or protect somebody else. And it's crazy because these are like, to us, the modern ones. And humans have been around for 200,000 years. And I feel like this has just been, it's like human nature, nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. This episode is really dark.
It's very dark. I don't have any uplifting ones.
I know, I don't either.
Get back, like, to bring the spirit up. I'm sorry, guys. It's just a dark episode. I can mix it up by talking about a natural disaster.
Sure.
Versus humans killing humans. We can talk about the planet trying to kill us.
Sure.
Okay.
That could be better.
This one is from IAMA, and the title is I'm a survivor of the 2004 tsunami. Ask me anything. I was in Thailand during the tsunami, more specifically in a beach resort in the region of Khao Lak. I arrived in Thailand for the second time with my family and my friend's family. Yes, all my family and my friend's family survived. I was only 10 at the time, so my memory might be a little foggy, but still, ask away. I arrived in Thailand on the night before the tsunami. As we were all sleeping, something woke everyone at the hotel up. We didn't know at the time, but it was actually the earthquake that caused the whole ordeal. Several hours passed and we all went to get breakfast and started heading to the beach. When we arrived, there was something strange. The staff started telling people to get off the beach since there was a tidal wave coming. No one believed that it was a large tidal wave, but people wanted to be safe, so they stepped back. When the wave started getting closer, I was put to the task to find a camera so we could take pictures. On the way to the bungalow, I found my mom, who said that I should follow my friend's mom while my mom went to get my brother. Me, my friend, his sister, and their mom started walking towards the city. When we reached the main road, some people were jogging, and suddenly panic broke out as everyone started running. As we started running, I heard a loud roar behind me. As I turned around, I saw this huge 5-meter brown wave crash over my friend's mother. We all kept running, and as me and my friend ran through the forest, we lost his sister, but we didn't have time to stop and think about it, so we just kept running. Suddenly, I turned to my friend and said that I couldn't move my arms. Now, this wasn't some paralyzed thing or something. I just couldn't control my arms, and they whipped back and forth on my body. While this was happening, I felt something else happen. It was like the energy that was supposed to go to my arms went to my legs instead, and I shot off like a speeding bullet. I ran and ran and ran. When I couldn't hear the wave anymore, I stopped for a breather, but as I lifted my head, I saw the wave crash through the building, and I had to start running again. Finally, I reached a tall wall where people were helping each other over. When I reached it, I was thrown up into the air by a tall man and caught by another man on top of the wall. Now I saw 2 different paths. One was leading to a temple and another leading into the forest. I saw that most of the tourists were running for the temple while most of the natives were running for the forest. I felt that it would be smarter to follow the natives since they knew the land. After a few more minutes of walking, everyone seemed to slow down, and a truck came by to pick up children and drive them to camps. I was taken to a mountain where I met a German couple who took care of me for a few hours as I slept. I awoke to the words, "Oh my God, it's Igantinos." When I opened my eyes, I saw my friend's sister. We decided to go together and asked me to move to another camp so we could look for other members of our families. When we arrived at the other camp, we found her brother and mother. We were 4 now. We waited a few hours until it became dark. A truck came and picked us up and moved us to a hospital. As luck would have it, I found my family there and the father of my friend. All 8 of us were alive. The next day was a blur for me since I had to regain from all of the adrenaline that I used the day before, but it basically ended that we got back to Sweden.
Natural disaster is another thing that I used to worry about all the time. I used to be deathly afraid of like tornadoes, even though we never get tornadoes here.
I feel
rarely.
I feel like we're in a very privileged place of the world to live in, be born into in like Toronto in Canada.
Yeah.
Even like what just happened with like Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, what happened in North Carolina because of Hurricane Helene. People literally got swept away in essentially a tsunami, not technically a tsunami, but like a flood.
Yeah.
A flood happened. And then there's also like floods going on in like Vancouver, I guess Western Vancouver in BC. West Vancouver is getting flooded right now.
Oh.
Like I've only seen a little bit of flooding in Toronto, but nothing crazy. And like Japan's getting flooded, Sahara Desert's getting flooded, whole world's flooding right now.
It's so scary. Like natural disasters is like one of the. I mean, all these stories are scary.
The planet was not built for us.
Okay, we're gonna get deep.
What do you guys believe? I don't know. Like when these things happen, it's like the planet was not built for humans. I don't know. You kind of think about it.
I don't know. what to believe. I don't know.
It's a dangerous place.
Even if it wasn't built for us,
we're going to conquer it.
Don't you think, like, I don't know, we've evolved so that, like, we make it work for us?
We do. I mean, people aren't supposed to live in Canada because of the cold, but because of what we can do, we can survive here. Mm-hmm. But if we were just humans with nothing, we would die in the cold. Yeah. But because we have our houses and heat that we've created, we can live here.
That's true.
Or else
I guess you can't really control tsunamis and stuff.
No.
Right? Like, is it due to global warming?
No.
No?
It's just been happening. It's just a planet. We're just specks of dust in the cosmos.
Oh, all right.
Okay. Yeah, I have another POV from that same 2004 tsunami. I actually have 2 more POVs from it, but I'm going to leave those for our Patreon episode.
Okay.
Because I don't want to oversaturate the tsunamis on this one, because I've kind of filled my palette. I've got 2 more stories that I'm going to read, and then that's going to bring an end to this. So if you guys want more of these or more of this tsunami one, make sure you guys join our Patreon. We got 22 episodes on Patreon for you guys, so we appreciate all your support. Bonus episodes coming out every Friday.
Every week, baby.
I don't like this episode.
I know, I actually don't like it either.
We're never doing this episode again.
Never ever. November, all happy episodes. I like that one comment suggested dark episodes in October, spooky, scary, whatever. November, we're being happy.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming. Christmas is coming. Okay.
This one's coming from IAMA. I am a survivor of an attempted murder. Back in May 2006, I got off work at the mall. I got on the bus as usual, and another mall employee I had talked to on a regular basis sat down across from me. We chatted up for a while, and he commented about always running into people that knew me. There was another person I knew as an acquaintance on the bus, so we moved back to talk to her as well. The first guy gets off and I keep talking. She says she has to walk to meet her boyfriend before we get off. I offer to walk with until she meets him, but she declines and we go our separate ways. I go to the store before headed home and grab some beer. Halfway through my first beer, there's a knock at the door. A friend of my roommate. We talked for a bit and he left. Almost done with my beer and another knock. It is him again and just asks if he could use the restroom. Thinking nothing of it, I say sure. And in floods 3 more people as soon as the door is open the rest of the way. One of them the boyfriend of the girl on the bus. The first thing said is, "Why were you messing with my girl, dog?" As 2 of them opened butterfly knives and I tried to talk them down. I sat there calmly on the couch. They were quite unwilling to listen, and I think sitting there calm and just trying to talk pissed off at least one of them. The boyfriend is in my face waving his knife, but he did not make the first strike. His friend jumps out from behind me and stabs me in the neck. It felt like it went in one side and out the other.
Oh my God.
I stood up and grabbed my throat and said, "Fuck, I'm going to die." I ran to my bedroom to get away through the patio door in there. I close one door behind me and I'm going for the sliding glass door when there is a crash and a slam against the back of my head. They had kicked the door off its hinges and it hit me. The next thing I remember, I swear I am in my living room again, but it may have been me stumbling into the hallway again and I see 2 flashes. They reflected off the man's glasses. There was an ambient light coming from outside, but for the moment there was those 3 flashes. I am suddenly on the floor looking up at the front door. One finger standing there, I tell him, "Just leave. I'm already dead." The voice raspy and gurgling. Then he asks where my phone is, and I say that it's in my bag. After he grabbed it and was out the door, I hear a car squeal out of the parking lot, leaving me for dead. I picked myself up off the floor and stumbled out the door and started knocking at my neighbor's window and door for help. They looked out, and right after, the man is out with a towel telling his family to call 911. I have no idea how long it took, but they started showing up asking me questions. The usual sort, I guess. Who and why I was scared to talk because I thought every time I did, even more blood poured out than if I were silent. The paramedics arrived to take me away, and I tried to persuade them not to cut off my clothes because I was not wearing underwear. My thought now is delirium. I was trying to maintain some modesty, I guess. They are asking me questions as they get me ready, on the stretcher and through the ride to the nearest trauma center ward a city over. We get there, and as they wheel me into the ER, I get another scare as the doctor says, he's probably a junkie that got messed up in a drug deal gone wrong. And before I go out, I can feel an intense pressure on my neck. That is the story of that evening. 2 blackouts, stabbed 7 times, as I was told 4 of them in the neck, and shot 4. I have a bullet in my head, 1 in my chest, and 1 that shattered my hand, and 1 was removed as it was caught in my esophagus. I was out of the hospital in 11 days. I will attach a link to the Arizona Tribune story.
What? How did he survive that?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Also, what the heck is that medical provider? Was it a doctor? Police. That's...
Yeah, I don't know.
So...
He says he was shot and stabbed 7 times.
That's so unprofessional.
I don't know.
He's a junkie.
Oh, that was the doctor when he got there. Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, the doctor. That's so messed up. It's like, oh, he asked for a type of mentality.
Yeah.
I hate that. As a doctor, you have to be more professional than that.
Right? I feel like
you have to be unbiased.
You're supposed to be unbiased. You're not supposed to judge anyone.
Even if that is what happened. Please, what the heck? That would make me more mad than anything.
Top comment. Do you have any permanent physical problems as a result of the multiple stabbing and gunshot wounds? Can you explain how the one in your head didn't do any serious harm? Did you or do you suffer from PTSD? This is one crazy story and several crazy dudes. Are they all locked up now? How do you feel towards your attackers? How is your life different now? Do you have a closer bond with family and friends as a result? Do you have a different attitude about life in general? Are you careful about talking to women who have boyfriends? OP responds, nothing that bothers me daily. The scar tissue in my neck sticks out in an uncomfortable way sometimes when I yawn, and a pinch in my chest. The bullet in my head hit the skull and traveled along the back instead of penetrating. And then he says a little. And then they're all locked up. Indifferent is the best way, I guess. I guess a little is for the PTSD.
Yeah. That's crazy. This guy is really, really lucky. And unlucky at the same time. Like,
I remember reading, or I forget where I saw it, but essentially the guy was shot 3 times in the chest, and the last thing he remembers is being on the stretcher in the hospital with the doctor looking over at him, and he says that he pulled down the oxygen mask and he said, I choose to live. Operate on me as if I'm going to live.
I like that.
I feel like when you're in that kind of situation, like I choose to believe that your mental output
I think so too.
has to do with how your body heals.
Yeah.
Like you
have the will to live.
You need to mentally have the will for your body to knit itself back together and heal with the help of doctors.
Yep. Exactly. I believe that as well.
Not that you're just going to will yourself healing power, but more of like you're willing your body to not give up. Mm-hmm. Will your soul to overwhelm your body.
All right. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. This will be my last one.
Okay.
This one comes from Berkeley. I survived 4 assassination attempts within 2 days at UC Berkeley. Ask me anything. I'm tired. Some of the details I will not remember anymore because I'm purely going based off of memory and what I wrote before. Let's cut to the chase. Assassination attempt number 1. Basically what happened. I woke up at 5 on Monday with cold sweats and tears, trying to get ready and deep learned for my midterm at 9. I was heading off to a location to do it until I sensed someone's presence using their shadow and their reflection within the mirror on the side. I thought it was just a random pedestrian on a bike until I got bonked in the back of the head. Everything just suddenly went blurry and slowly faded to black to the point of collapsing. This happens near Martinez Commons. I was carrying a tote bag and suddenly I felt something pierce straight through my right biceps where my tote bag was at the time. I straight up immediately regained consciousness and tried to figure out what was going on. I saw a metal pipe basically inserted in my right arm. I quickly realized that he was trying to either get the pipe underneath the tote hook or force it to slip it out of my hand entirely. I immediately reacted by curling up my right arm so that my right bicep can get a grip of the metal pipe and use my left arm to get a hold of it. I wanted to use that pipe to yank the homeless man off the bike to my left and spear him dead myself. However, because I was wearing a nylon coat, I can't grip properly. He knows it too and immediately disengages. After that, I ran in a zigzag to try to get him off, but he was still chasing. It was a good solid 6 to 8 minute chase until I saw basically a free intersection and just made a run for it. Out of nowhere, there was a Nissan Altima that spawned in and it was speeding at like 65 miles per hour. While I was basically illegally crossing, I turned back and saw him aiming straight at the back of my head, trying to straight up spear me dead. At the same time, the Nissan Altima was not slowing down. I was basically flanked in multiple directions. Either I'll get run over by Nissan Altima that day, or I'll get assassinated. I straight up said fuck it, raised my hand up in the air like King Baldwin IV so he can slow down. He didn't. There was loud as fuck honking, but I made it alive. The chase stopped. I immediately go to the E-Tang, but they made me wait for 1 hour. By that time, I had the midterm and straight up said fuck it. I eloped from E-Tang and locked the fuck in for both the midterm and lecture. I was about to lock the fuck in for my other classes until I started fainting to black again. So yeah. A friend was able to take me to the basement of UCPD to file a report. But because of how this happens at the sidewalk of Martinez Commons, this was under the jurisdiction of Berkeley City Police and not UCPD. UCPD was unable to take my report. It wasn't until I had to go to E-Tang, where they make me sit and reconsider about this stupid school for 7 hours, they were able to finally do something with UCPD. Assassination attempt number 2. I got impatient with E-Tang, straight up said fuck it, and eloped. Right after I eloped, another homeless man was sitting Thanos Endgame style and ready to lob a rock at me. I was like, I'm fucking done, and ran. Assassination attempt number 3. The next day, I was severely internally bleeding and started coughing up blood. After I literally just got off from the ER, and there was another homeless man who tried to whack me with a skateboard at downtown BART station. This happened 6 hours later. Assassination attempt number 4. I was out at night, 2 a.m., due to relationship problems, and another homeless man just woke the fuck up out of nowhere and started aggressively chasing me with a knife near the tennis court. Luckily, after a few zigzag runs later, I was fine. I don't even know how to process this. Here's literal proof. I'm too tired to make this shit up, deadass. Moral of the story, I'm Batman.
What the fuck?
I guess Berkeley is not in a good area.
Well, you need to move. It's too many homeless people are attacking you.
The proof is just like screenshots of his text and then also an article that says, report of a person with metal pole. And there's pictures of his bruises. And him in the hospital.
That's crazy.
Where the heck is Berkeley? I thought Berkeley was a good school. Oh, it's in California. Berkeley is in Berkeley, California. Interesting. Well, if you guys go to Berkeley, stay safe out there. There's a lot of killer homeless people, it sounds.
Literally. This post is from 8 years ago. I survived a mass shooting at a movie theater. This happened to me 4 years ago. It's by far the most extreme and life-threatening situation I've been in. The eyewitness account you're about to read is 100% true and is mine. For some understanding, this happened in the United States. It was the summer of 2012. My longtime boyfriend and I had recently gotten married. Even though we were dirt poor college students and lived in dinky apartments, we were having a blast. That particular summer, we gathered with our friends at the local movie theater almost every weekend. There was one just down the street from our apartment that had really cheap movie tickets. A night out that was under $10 was certainly within our budget. Anyway, one Tuesday night, I received a call from this group of friends inviting us to watch the midnight premiere of the newest Batman movie. I had just finished working a 12-hour shift and was pretty tired. I almost refused the invitation and thought of crashing in my apartment instead. However, I didn't want to miss out on the fun, and it was a movie I'd wanted to see for a while anyway. Certainly, it wouldn't do any harm to stay up later than usual and miss a few hours of sleep, right? At 10:30 p.m., we meet at the theater. We passed large cardboard cutouts of Catwoman and Batman as we walked inside, greeted by the smell of buttery popcorn and the chatter of excited moviegoers. The ticket booth was to the right of the entrance, and just above that was an electronic list of movies being played. The 12 a.m. showing of The Dark Knight Rises was displayed up there in bright red letters. Being paranoid that the tickets would sell out quickly, one of my friends swung by earlier that day and purchased tickets for all of us. We bypassed the ticket line and went straight to the ticket taker. She smiled at us and kindly directed us to Theater 9, which was on the right side of the lobby. If only I had known what I do now. That among the crowds a killer was lurking. That as I walked across the tacky red and purple carpet towards Theater 9, I could have been walking to my death. I think about it often now, what I would have done if I had known. Pulled the fire alarm, called the police, screamed for people to run away. But, of course, I had no way of knowing what was about to happen. Oblivious to the peril I was putting myself in, I pushed open the doors for Theater 9 without giving it a second thought. The hallway in the theater was shaped like a U, and you could go either left or right. Theater 9 was the largest screening room in the building, perfect for accommodating the crowds that midnight premieres brought in. The screen was motionless and gray. Not even the previews had started yet because there was still a good hour and a half to go until the movie actually started. We entered on the right side, so all of the seats were to our left. I remember being surprised at just how packed the theater already was. Just about every seat was filled, much to our dismay. At first it seemed like we wouldn't find a spot to sit together. Now, the way this theater was set up, there was a section of seats right in front of the screen. This area was flat, and there were about 5 rows of seating in this section. A lot of the seats in that section were empty, but sitting right in front of the movie screen sucks, and none of us wanted to sit there. One of my friends then spotted a row with 5 empty seats all next to each other, perfect for the amount of people that we had. These seats were about 3 to 4 rows from where the seating rows start to elevate. We ran up the stairs before someone could take the seats and filed in. My husband, Brock, sat in the 5th seat. I sat next to him, and my friend Samantha sat next to me on my right side. Her boyfriend Tommy sat next to her, and another friend named Leo sat in the aisle seat. We spent the next several minutes casually chatting, joking around and laughing. After a while, my 3 friends went to the lobby to buy drinks and that addicting movie theater popcorn. While they were gone, Brock and I passed the time by people watching. The theater was bright since the lights weren't dimmed yet, and I could see everyone clearly. There were a lot of people dressed in Batman t-shirts and hoodies. One person even had a mask and one of those shirts with an actual cape. There were a lot of kids in attendance as well, which wasn't surprising because even though it was a Thursday night, it was summer vacation, so that meant no school the next day. Of all the people I saw, the person I will never forget was the little girl sitting in the same row a few chairs away. She was really cute, blonde with blue eyes, and passed us several times on her way to the lobby, each time coming back with various snacks and popcorn. Overall, people seemed very excited to see the movie, and the room was filled with energy and laughter. After what seemed like an eternity of waiting, the lights started to dim and the previews began. Just like every movie I've seen before, a quick animation flashed across the screen reminding us to get refreshments from the lobby. We were already devouring that popcorn like ravenous animals. To silence our cell phones and to make sure we know where the emergency exits are. The animation had this ugly CGI cat in a tuxedo that was sitting in a movie theater. I casually glanced at the bright green emergency exit signs that were on the left and right sides of the movie screen. I didn't think much of the reminder, like usual. After that, I only remember one preview for The Man of Steel. The others, I'm not sure what they were about. When the movie started, the theater erupted into cheering and clapping. The title of the movie, The Dark Knight Rises, exploded onto the screen. This was followed by the scene where Bane is hijacking a plane. I thought this scene was pretty cool and it caught my interest right away. Only when the movie started to get a little less interesting did I remember how tired I was. I decided I would close my eyes at the more boring parts to get a little bit of rest. I had been awake for 20 hours at that point, so I was rightfully sleepy. My eyes were closed for most of the duration of Batman and Catwoman's encounter. I don't really remember what was going on in that part of the movie. Perhaps some of you have seen it and know what I'm talking about. Anyway, when I opened my eyes again, Bruce Wayne was on his computer digging up information on Catwoman. This is the last scene I saw. I never got to watch the rest of the movie. All of a sudden, a loud bang erupts from the left side of the theater. I sort of screamed a little because it startled me. A strange smell started to fill the auditorium. It was like the smell of a firework, so I thought it was a cherry bomb or something similar. Had someone thrown fireworks into the crowd as a prank? Then, down near the right side of the movie screen, a dark silhouette of a person caught my attention. They were just a black frame against the bright movie screen. A series of flashing lights was coming from this person. It was a weird moment where time literally slowed down and everything went strangely quiet. I was completely frozen, unable to move and unable to think at all. It was like my brain had stopped working entirely. Brock caught on immediately to what was happening and he grabbed me. He pulled me to the ground and lay on top of me, shielding me with his own body. At this point, time and sound returned to me. I could hear the gunshots ringing out across the theater. People were screaming. The movie was still playing on top of all of it, creating a chaotic explosion of sound. I realized the flashing lights I had seen were bullets flying out of the gun barrel. An instant sensation of adrenaline flooded my body. There was absolutely nothing I could do except lay there and hope to God that the bullets I heard ripping through seats and walls didn't go through me too. At one point, shrapnel hit my head, cutting off a good chunk of my hair. As I reached for the spot to make sure it wasn't bleeding, hot pieces of metal fell into my hand. I was laying face up, so I could see everything that was happening. The lights from the still playing movie danced across the ceiling and the walls. My friends were on the floor with me. Our unfinished bucket of popcorn was spilled all across the floor. Leo had his legs sticking out into the aisle because there wasn't enough room for him to hide completely behind the seats. At some point, Samantha's water bottle, which had been in the cup holder between our seats, explodes. Water splashed all over my face. The smell of gun smoke was overwhelming. Riot-grade tear gas made me cry and caused me to cough uncontrollably. There was another smell too, the horrific smell of blood that I'll never forget. I remember my lower body feeling wet all of a sudden. For some reason, I thought this came from the leaking water bottle, but I soon realized this wasn't the case. All of a sudden, things went strangely quiet. The bullets had stopped for some reason. Tommy shouted, "Let's get out of here!" We took advantage of this opportunity and made a run for it. We ran down the stairs across the front of the screen towards the bright green exit sign. We crammed into a small closet-like space where the door was. It was so dark we had a hard time finding it. We were screaming and slamming on the walls to find the door, blinded by the tear gas and dumbfounded by the shock. Then, finally, my hands felt the metal door handle and I pushed against it with all my strength. The door flew open and the light of the nearby streetlight flooded our eyes. We pushed against the door so hard that we all fell over onto the concrete. Samantha lost her pink flip-flops just outside this doorway. As I scrambled to my feet and literally ran for my life, I realized my legs were red, absolutely soaked with blood. It was like I dipped my legs into a bathtub full of it. I checked my body all over and realized I wasn't injured at all. Where had this blood come from? I looked behind me and realized that the blood was my husband's. He had been shot in the leg. A massive, gaping hole had ripped through the lower half of Brock's right leg. His foot was barely hanging on and dangling lifelessly. Leo and a young man I didn't recognize were carrying Brock because after falling outside the door, he lost all of his strength and he couldn't walk. I was completely shocked. I had no idea he had been injured, especially since he was right behind me the whole time and managed to escape the theater all by himself. How he did it on one foot, I'll never know. At this point, I screamed. My scream was so loud that it alerted nearby construction workers. At the back of the theater, there was a narrow parking lot, followed by a grassy lawn and then the street beyond that. The construction workers were doing road repair on the street, but as soon as they heard my scream and saw us running, they stopped working and watched what was going on. I'm not sure why this is such a vivid part of my memory. Anyway, they carried Brock along the back sidewalk all the way to the end, where the corner of the building is. This was quite a distance, several dozen feet. My husband then collapsed from exhaustion and pain, saying he couldn't move anymore. He lay down and a puddle of blood started to form beneath him. I looked back and realized we had left a trail of blood leading from the door all the way to our current position. I was trembling. I knelt beside Brock and glanced around to see who else was injured. Tommy had been shot in the knee and the hip and was further away in the parking lot. The teenager who held my husband was also injured. His dad and mom were with him. His mom was sitting against the wall and looked like she was going to pass out. She was bleeding from several places. That family escaped at the same time we did. I guess they heard the bullet stopped and decided to make a run for it too. We were all lucky because the shooting was still going on inside. I had to take off my shirt and use it to stop the bleeding. I'll never forget how lifeless and limp his leg felt, and I imagine that's what a dead body must feel like. I got blood all over my hands and arms. The police showed up really fast. I'd say we were only outside for a minute or two before the red and blue sirens filled the night and rushed to our location. We were literally a block away from the police station. A female officer stood by us the whole time until paramedics arrived, which took a very long time. Brock was one of the last to be taken to the hospital. He was bleeding out for almost 20 minutes before an ambulance pulled up on the same street with the road work. At this point, he had become almost unresponsive and was on the verge of unconsciousness. Several massive guys rushed across the grass with a stretcher, loaded him onto it, and then ran him back to the waiting ambulance. I wasn't able to go with him because there was another injured person in the ambulance and it was too crowded. I wandered around in front of the movie theater alone, unsure of where my friends had went. My bloodstained shirt and a pool of blood were left behind on the corner of that sidewalk. Walking through the crowds felt like a dream. I couldn't believe what had just happened. People were in hysterics and crying. A lot of people, such as me, were covered in blood, and like me, I'm pretty sure the blood staining their skin and clothes wasn't their own. A lot of people seemed to notice how lonely and dazed I looked, so they kept me company and even offered me a ride to different hospitals to find Brock, because I hadn't been told what hospital he was taken to. I hung around these people for a while as police swarmed the area and asked us what we saw inside the theater. The whole parking lot was on lockdown, and we weren't going to be allowed to leave anytime soon. It was around 2 a.m., so it was very dark outside still, and I was pretty cold, wearing only an undershirt and shorts. The flashing red and blue lights seemed like 100 police cars were blinding. I remember seeing a big police vehicle pull up that said something like Crime Scene Investigation Unit on it. I think that's when it really sank in and hit me. I started to get sick to my stomach and wanted to vomit, but somehow I was able to hold it back. Eventually, police started letting people leave. I jumped into my truck and booked it out of there. I was in such a panic that I didn't even think to go back to my apartment, grab my cell phone, which I had forgotten, and call my parents or someone else to help me. I was angry, upset, scared, and most of all, still in a state of shock. Was I really going to lose Brock only a month shy of our first wedding anniversary because of some psychopath with a gun? Thankfully, by the time dawn rolled around, I found the hospital he was treated in. This was in the next city over, maybe 45 minutes from the theater if you're going the speed limit. I was so happy to be there, and the hospital staff were also welcoming and understanding. After making sure I wasn't injured at all, they let me wait in the ICU room that Brock would be placed in when he was done recovering from surgery. I was so glad he was alive. Brock and Tommy both had survived, though many others weren't so lucky. I found out the following day, after some much-needed sleep on a hospital couch, that 12 people were killed in this shooting and over 70 were injured. I remember they first thought 15 were killed, but the real number was 12. The little blonde girl sitting in my row did not survive. She died in the theater no more than a few feet away from us. She had been shot multiple times. A heartbroken police officer who cried during his court testimony tried unsuccessfully to save her by carrying her out of the theater and having her sent to a hospital. Tommy was rushed to a different hospital in the back of a police car. He underwent surgery and made a full recovery. The bullet missed his hip bone and narrowly missed his urinary tract and bladder. According to the surgeons, my husband lost almost half his blood. Brock made it to the hospital just in time. Any later and he would have died. He underwent several blood transfusions and was in the hospital for 21 days. The wound to his leg was severe enough that they had to amputate it after trying unsuccessfully to save it. It's been so long since the shooting happened that my husband, friends, and I have been able to recover from it somewhat. The event was pretty horrific and has left us scarred for sure. I wouldn't consider that part of the story to be creepy though. No, the creepy part is the shooter himself. I later learned much about him from the murder trial that would follow in the coming years. Though my encounter with this man was very brief, he had affected my life greatly. Just to know that people like this exist is disturbing. He is certainly one twisted individual that I never want to see again. I learned something from watching the televised trial that took place in early 2015. This guy was going to school for neuroscience or something in California. I guess he was a pretty smart guy. However, for some reason, he had an obsession with killing people and had a stalker mentality. After dropping out of his university, he moved to my state and chose my local theater to commit a mass shooting. Before that, he was planning on hiding among remote hiking trails up in the mountains, jumping people, pulling them into the woods, and killing them there, though he never went through with that idea. He stalked my theater for months and had this shooting all planned out for the night of July 20th. Though I never saw him before this, it's unnerving to think this guy could have been watching us every time we went to the theater, and we would never have known it. We were completely unaware of what he had planned against us. This completely ruined my sense of security because who knows what the stranger next to you is planning on doing to you. I came very close to the shooter, but I never actually saw his face in person until I was forced to testify in court. Of course, I saw his mugshot on television, but while in the theater, I only saw him as a dark silhouette in the shadows, like a demonic figure rendering from the darkest and most sinister nightmare. He was even in the hallway that we passed upon, running for the emergency exit. The only thing stopping him from killing us there was his jammed assault rifle. To commit this crime, he ordered a few thousand rounds of ammunition, riot gear and armor, tear gas, an assault rifle, and a shotgun. He took pictures of himself which were shown in court, wearing all of this gear like some sick trophy, holding up these weapons with a menacing smile. He dyed his hair orange and put in these creepy black contacts while making devilish faces into his camera, something that made me sick just looking at. Before driving to the theater with all of his gear in his car, he booby-trapped his entire apartment and set it to explode if anyone opened the door. Then, once at the theater, he posed as a moviegoer and even bought a ticket for the movie. I think his ticket had Theater 8 on it, which was next door, but Theater 9 had more people in it, so he went into number 9 instead. He was in the few front rows. I must have passed him several times in the lobby while he was there. Maybe he had seen me too. At some point during the movie, he got up and went through the side exit, which didn't have an alarm for some reason, kept it propped open with something, then went to his car to put on all of his armor and grabbed his weapons. Then he came back inside and started shooting. When we escaped the theater, we ran right past his white car which was parked right at the exit. We didn't even notice it. At some point, he came outside and he would have seen us there on the concrete. I don't know what stopped him from shooting people that were outside too, but he could have easily ended us there and then if he wanted to. I think the hardest part for me was facing the twisted individual in court. I never forget rising as they called my name, walking down the center row past my family, other survivors, and crowds of news-hungry media personnel. I sat right across from him, only maybe 10 feet away. While his orange hair was gone and he wasn't wearing black contacts, being so close to him was a creepy, uncomfortable experience. My encounters with this man are certainly ones I'll never forget. I can now say that I've come face to face with a true, deranged psychopath. He just had this blank stare in his eyes the whole time. If eyes truly are the window to the soul, then his soul is filled with nothing but a cold indifference for those he had murdered and harmed. He wouldn't even look at me. Sitting across from him in court was the second time I had only been in the same room with this man. A man who had tried to take my life, but thankfully failed. A man who would end up spending forever behind bars when, at the end of all of it, he was sentenced to 3,318 years in prison for his crimes. This is the man who tried to kill me. The man who caused countless nightmares and fueled the fires of my paranoia. The man who hurt my friends and family, causing years of untold grief for my husband because he will never walk the same again. The man who stole the innocence and joy from a 6-year-old child who went into that theater live and came out dead. To the man who carried out the worst mass shooting in Colorado history. Let's not meet again. Ever. I hope you rot in prison.
That is crazy. Let's check. I don't really know what to say. Do you consider yourself lucky for coming out alive?
I feel like you have to.
Or unlucky for
being there in the first place?
Yeah.
Having that happen to you? I feel like you gotta think you're lucky.
It's literally like wrong place at the wrong time. This man planned it out for months, they said.
I mean, I feel like all of them do. Like, I feel like there's probably a lot of stories like this of like the school shootings, of the mass school shootings in the U.S. that are such a problem.
Yeah. But this is like, you're going to a movie theater. Like, you have to be so unlucky to go to that movie theater, pick that movie, go at that time, to be in that room.
Yeah.
Like, there's only so many, like, options, you know? Like,
it's, yeah.
Like, what if I didn't, I don't know. Like, what if I got into an accident on the way there? You know what I mean? Like,
that's like the 9/11 stuff. Like, there's the one story where I remember the dude said his parents both worked in the World Trade Centers and his mom went into labor on that day, was in the hospital giving birth to him, and dad went there. Oh. His birth is the only reason that his parents survived. There's things crazy. Like that.
Wow.
There's so many instances of that. I think there was a Paris nightclub shooting.
Yeah.
There's the October 7th shooting for the Israel music festival. There's so many terrorist attacks. Guns have revolutionized war, but also made it so much easier for one person to do so much damage.
So much damage. If you guys made it this far, I hope you go listen to something happy. I hope you take care of yourself, because this one was really, really heavy, even for us.
Yeah.
I'm like, this was a lot.
It was very heavy. There's a few other stories that I came across. We had one person reach out to us saying that one of their friends was actually the person from the October 7th music festival, and there was a news report. Fortunately, we don't read news reports on here, so I can leave a link to that down below as well. And there's another one that I came across. There's a man, I don't want to really name names or anything, but for 9/11, essentially, if you guys know the story, but he was helping people out from the buildings that were burning, like helping people at the bottom of the 9/11 buildings before they collapsed. And then he later found out that his sister, niece, and a family friend were aboard the planes. One of the planes that hit the towers. He was on the ground helping people, only to find out that one of the planes that was hijacked had his family on it.
Wow.
And there's another one of there's this story that I listened to back when I was in high school. I feel like I listened to this a long time ago. There's a video on YouTube now that was posted 2020, but I believe this story is much older than that, because I remember the video was part one, part two, and now it's all just one video. But his name was Ross Capiccioni.
Capiccioni.
Yeah, so he got shot 3 times with a shotgun in Detroit for gang initiation, but that's a whole video story that themselves. They don't really have his POV story written out. It's just his video, but I'll leave a link to that down below, because that one that was an incredible story as well. If you guys would like to, listen to what I've listened to, I'll leave that link in the description down below. And that's all we've got. I've got a couple more of those tsunami POVs that I will put onto our next Patreon episode. If you guys want to help support us by supporting our Patreon, we greatly appreciate that.
I have a few stories that I'm going to read on Patreon as well. I had trouble finding some stories at first for this episode, but then I found quite a few.
Yeah, like that last story and the Route 91 story were the ones that I just came across and I put onto the tab, and then the rest of them I found through research. But those were the original 2 where I was just like, holy, it's intense. And
those were intense.
And I can only imagine this is like,
there's so many.
The smallest scale of someone who went through this, who felt brave enough to then write it out and share it for awareness of what people, the trauma they've gone through, what people would have done, and the amount of people that haven't written a story about it, that have went through it as well, is it's heartbreaking. It's
thank you to everyone.
Sometimes it's like you watch the videos of like how amazing Earth is, and the fact that life has spawned on this planet, and the cosmos is everything, and every animal is precious. Like the video that we watched in Vegas in the Sphere, a postcard from Earth, is like, makes you like awe-inspiring of how amazing Earth is. And then you see this other side, I guess, this other aspect, I guess, of dark side of human nature and humans, and there's a lot of sadistic psychopaths out there, and just hope everyone stays safe. Yep.
I was going to say, just thank you, if any of the writers are listening, thank you for sharing.
I'm sorry you had to go through
your
that.
Stories, and yes, I'm very sorry that all of us had to go through all of that, because that's really, really tough to listen to. Like, imagine going through it. Like,
this was a very tough episode. I don't know if we'll ever do an episode like this again.
I don't think so. This was really dark.
This was a little too dark for how we like our podcast to usually be.
Yeah. I think November will be lots of happy stories.
We don't know what our November program looks like yet. Teresa will decide what stories she wants to do.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring back the, maybe not happy, but like the usual content with drama and.
Am I the asshole? Today I fucked up.
More lighter stuff.
Get back to giving you some laughs.
Yeah. Yes. Stuff that's like, we could just turn our brain off and listen for entertainment.
Yeah, this was heavy on the soul.
Yeah.
You want to talk about life updates or anything?
What do we got?
We put Andrew in a pumpkin.
Oh, yeah, we did.
A big old
if you guys are
weekend.
watching on YouTube, Denver will put in a picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be some nice positive vibes to end.
And if you follow us on our Denver and Teresa Instagram account, you would have already seen it.
Yes.
But Friday, we had Friendsgiving. A week late.
Oh my God, we had
Canadian.
such a long weekend.
We have so much food in our fridge. So we had Friendsgiving Friday. And then we had Pumpkin Day Saturday.
Which we hosted, we hosted Friendsgiving.
I don't know why did we end up hosting that in our apartment, Teresa. We have a tiny condo and we host 8 people.
No one else could.
We had to get a fold-away table.
Yes.
Order from Amazon. Then it was too long. Then I had to go to Canadian Tire. It took forever for them to find in the shelves. Just so that you can host Friendsgiving. Although it was a really good time.
It was a lot of fun. And I enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it too. We have so much food in the fridge. But then Saturday, drove out to Madison and went to Andrew and Pumpkin Day. You know what I was just thinking? I'm like, the pumpkin patch was really for us. He's just a baby. He didn't enjoy the pumpkin patch at all.
No, it's for us.
Like in a couple years, he would actually play with the activities like Rowan did.
Yep.
But we just dragged him along.
We did.
I held him for so much. I got so much Andrew time.
Oh, I know. You freaking hogged him. Not held him. You hogged him.
I guess I did hog him.
Yeah, you did.
Now that he can hold his own head up, I am more comfortable.
Me too.
I'm not so worried. He's not so fragile.
Yeah, he's
still kind of fragile. He's
such a freaking cutie.
Don't drop him.
We got a very large pumpkin and cut it up and plopped him in there.
Yeah, then took 100 photos.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah.
And then the next day we had my family Thanksgiving.
Yeah, another delayed Thanksgiving. So then we have leftovers in our fridge, and we got our Factor meals. Don't forget, you guys can, if you guys want to help support the show, want some Factor meals, ThreadTalk 50 is our code, but we got those stacked up. We got them at the wrong time because we got them when we had a ton of leftovers.
We didn't think it through.
Now our fridge is absolutely stacked.
It's stacked.
And apparently I'm not eating enough chicken at lunchtime because we have too many leftovers.
We gotta eat more.
And Teresa's stressing.
I don't want the food to go bad, so we gotta eat.
Munge.
What else?
I don't know. I feel better now a little bit. I feel a little bit better.
We need to watch Gilmore Girls. Oh, we finished the first, I guess, series of Gilmore Girls. Now we're
7 seasons done. We had someone comment say that they're watching Gilmore Girls now because of us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry for my spoilers that I've thrown out there.
Yeah, you suck.
I won't do any more.
You suck for that.
Won't do any more spoilers, but I will say we finished the OG series, and then we have the bonus Netflix. So you know what I was thinking?
Year in the Life.
Year in the Life, 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Like 10 years later. You know what I was thinking? I was like, hey, so like normal TV, right? Like it would have aired, and then maybe it would have got some reruns, whatever, you know what I mean? But like because of Netflix, because of the fact that Netflix got Gilmore Girls, and then people binge watch Gilmore Girls, reliving their old love from when it used to be on TV, that they're like, wow, there's so much interest in this. We're going to do a Netflix original series and see if we can get all the actors back. And they pretty much did.
They got everybody back.
I haven't seen Dean yet. He's too busy being on Supernatural.
But Dean wasn't... I'm not going to give spoilers. But he wasn't
didn't
really...
like Dean at the end.
I didn't either. Yeah, for valid reasons.
Yeah, but it brought pretty much every other person back. We haven't seen Christopher yet, but he could be coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
great show.
There's that. I want to start The Lincoln Lawyer, but apparently we have to watch a bunch of other shows before we can watch the new season of Lincoln Lawyer.
I want to watch Tell Me Lies. I want to watch Nobody Wants This. Only Murders in the Building, which now, I mean, it's Christmas time.
Oh, Lincoln Lawyer is better than all of those. We'll watch Lincoln Lawyer first, and then we go back.
No, I definitely want to watch Tell Me Lies first. I have mad FOMO
I'm going to watch it by myself.
No.
You know what's also coming out with a new season? Silo. Remember Silo from Apple TV?
Yeah,
that one was good. You know, I love my post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
That one was really good. So season 2 is coming out for that. And I've been watching Tulsa King. It's not a Teresa show, so I've been watching it by myself. I want to start up The Expanse. It's a space show, so I don't think you'll like it. Yeah, but then I'll watch it, and then you'll see a clip of it.
No.
And then you'll be like, oh, I think I want to watch this show. And I'll be like, oh, I've watched it. Like House of Dragon. Like The Last of Us.
The Last of Us, yeah.
Yeah. The Last of Us. Based on a video game about zombies. Does that sound like a show that Teresa would want to watch? No.
The show was sappy.
Bro, you just had FOMO.
I did.
Because of all the pop culture.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. But this episode's coming out October 29th?
Yeah, it's like the
2 days before Halloween, I think.
Last October episode, yeah, next Tuesday.
What are you guys all doing for Halloween? Let us know.
We're doing nothing.
Next year, hopefully, we can go trick-or-treating with Andrew.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I know.
Definitely be able to do it at our house, because we'll be in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
We'll be out with the coyotes.
Coyotes. Yeah. Next week, you'll probably see Christmas decorations.
Oh, my God.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Going to decorate the den for like 2 months straight.
I mean, I'm definitely going to put up the tree.
We're going to put my little
November.
Christmas tree right here on this table. It's going to be perfect. We'll go like right here.
I just don't know if I want to decorate the studio the same time we decorate the living room, just because I know people are going to be mean.
Boo-hoo.
They're going to be mean to me.
Nobody's mean to
It's
you.
too early. Because in the
Nobody's mean
States,
to you.
they have Thanksgiving still.
Listen, the Christmas decorations are for sale at Dollarama right now. So,
Oh, yeah, I know.
yeah.
All the stores got the decor.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this, because we only did this because you guys asked. I mean, that was a heavy episode.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back to our more
Usual
traditional
content.
light ones, but let us know what you guys think. Please drop the comment down below, and yeah.
All right. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.